So all of the compounds that we're going to be working with in this class follow the rules that we just went over. It's either going to be a molecular compound and therefore is going to use prefixes, or it's going to be an ionic compound in which you simply write out the name of the compound unless you don't know the charge of the metal, and in that case you need to include the charge as a Roman numeral. But that's it. Now there is just one exception, and that is for acids. Remember, acids are compounds that begin with H. There are a couple of exceptions. For example, water is not a typical acid, but we will look at the fact that it actually is an acid, but it is also a base, so it's a little bit confusing. And then, for example, hydrogen peroxide. But otherwise, if you have a compound that starts with hydrogen, bets are that it is going to be an acid. And we have an entire unit in which we're going to be working with acids and bases in detail, so we need to know how to name them. So an acid, if it contains an anion that has an IDE ending, meaning it was on the periodic table and you just added an IDE ending, not a polyatomic ion, what you do is you will write hydro, the prefix hydro, then you'll write the name of the anion with its IDE ending, then you'll write the name of the anion, but instead of its IDE ending, you're going to add an ic instead, and then you're going to use the word acid. So for example, HBr. HBr, because it's bromide, would be hydro, and instead of bromide, it would be bromic acid. So the only time you use hydro is if you have an anion that came from the periodic table and it is not a polyatomic ion. Now, if you have a polyatomic ion, then the 8 from the polyatomic anion is going to become ic, while if it's ite, it's going to become us, and no hydro needed. Now, my Pee-wee chemistry students came up with a trick, and what they said is if there are a lot of people together, they don't like that. If there are 8 people together, that is ic, so 8 goes with ic, while if it is just us, it is all right, or it is ite. So if that helps you, go for it. So here I've got HNO3. Now, NO3 is nitrate, and so the name of this acid, remember, you don't include hydro, it would just be nitric, because it's an 8. 8 is ic, nitric acid, and that's it. Okay. For HNO2, it would be nitrous acid. Okay. And so if you look at the practice that's provided with you, notice that in reverse, the reason why I'm not going over how to write the formula, this is just like any ionic compound. So for example, you can see you've got H2CO3 is one of the practice problems you need to do. Now, this acid, you need to figure out its name, but notice that the reason why there's a 2 there is because carbonate has a 2- charge. So I crossed my charges in order to get that, while hydrogen has a +1 charge as an ion, and so that's why there isn't a subscript right here.